When I see all the old films, it's gorgeous.
That's quite remarkable.
There Will Come Soft Rains gives you an image of the blast of the explosion right in the first panel, which is telling you the whole story of the event that's going to unfold.
Mm-hmm. And this is based on a real photograph about the Hiroshima bomb.
Yeah.
And there was a picture in the paper in the late 40s of the shadows of a family on the side of a wall in Hiroshima who were photographed there. The people were destroyed, but their shadows remained.
Yeah,
so that's how the story got written.
Yeah, yeah. And it was a perfect splash, and you know, I don't mind flashbacks.
But it also needs to be said that you were an artist. You had begun your tenure at EC doing both the artwork and the writing.
Right.
So it almost seems to me that as you were unfolding these, you must have also been, your ability to write and condense them, I think, was connected to the fact that you were a comic book artist. And were you imagining your own images of how these stories would unfold in your own style?
Of course.
Exactly.
I mean, how could I not?
Yes. That gave you an edge that other editors wouldn't have.
And of course, I was always disappointed that the artists, these great artists, didn't come up to my standards that I would have done.
So, you see, but sometimes, Al, you don't give yourself enough credit. What I'm saying is you as an editor had the ability to visually unfold this, maybe with your own little miniature film comic book.
And I also had the reverence of the written word that Ray had originally put down. I wanted every nuance of his descriptive passages and his wonderful prose to be in there. I don't know how much I left out. I don't remember. I remember catching a lot of the story.
I think this is our last one.
Now, if I hadn't stayed in love all of my life with dinosaurs and comic strips and old movies, I would never have wound up writing Moby Dick for the screen. So it was my destiny, and this is very important in my destiny.
Well, I am really grateful that for the few years of our Camelot years at AC, that you gave us permission to adopt these stories, because you not only inspired me in terms of giving you full credit due in terms of the adaptations, but you also inspired my own writing.
That's good.
Yeah, well, it wasn't so good because I had artists that was screaming that they had to write hunchback characters, they had to draw hunchback characters because I had all this copy, all these captions and balloons. I was getting heavier and heavier in the writing. We were leaning a lot more towards text in the EC books towards the end.
And then for those of us who read the stories that both of you produced, there was also great inspiration and a sense of wonder brought to me as a kid that then drove me into reading Ray's stories and opened up my life in a completely different way. And I know for thousands of comic book fans, it's the same feeling. You both did good.
So I wanted to share that with you, and I hope you got something. Want to add something to that, Tom?
It's just hearing those two guys.
It's so great listening to them talk
together in the same room, just hearing them talk. Because again, the admiration that Feldstein had for Bradbury, it pushed him to be a better writer. But just as he was saying there, he was always a very wordy. You know, he joked about hunchback characters, but there are some pretty famous EC panels where there's this mass amount of text, and there's two little heads there that are saying the text, and there's a infamous Jack Kamen story where he illustrated one panel with these little stick figures running along the bottom because the whole panel is text. So it was a match made in heaven, really, for Feldstein to be able to adapt these stories because he already loved to write and he already was a very gifted writer, and then to be pushed to the next level by adapting these stories. And as he said, it must have been a challenge. What do you take out? What do you leave in? How do you capture the flavor of it? But as Bradbury acknowledged, the EC artists that were matched to these particular stories, I can't think of any example that wouldn't have been the perfect choice. Which, a collection like this, it's going to be wonderful to look through and see how well matched they are. You know, he was talking about the titles that they adapted stories for, and you mentioned crime suspense stories. Whether it was crime or horror or science fiction, they had the exact right artist, and Feldstein was clearly the guy to do the adaptation.
Yeah, and every one of the stories that they talked about is going to be, is on the list, is going to be in that collection. And the book we're talking about, by the way, I should just mention to you, if you're familiar with the EC Artist Library that we're doing, those are standard, those are hardbacks, but the size is more or less the size of a comic book. But this collection is going to be much, much larger. It's 9.5 by 13 or something like that.
It is.
So it's really going to display the art.
It's actually bigger than the EC library size.
Can you pre-order them yet from anybody?
Yes.
I don't know, but he
You
said
can
yes.
pre-order, yeah.
Oh,
So-
yeah, sure, it's on Amazon, and I'm sure that if you go to Fantagraphics
I'd
website,
rather get, oh, okay, Fantagraphics.
which apparently we pack better than Amazon, so it might be
Yeah,
something.
they're quite rough on books.
Yeah, yeah, well, because they have like, somebody who's got 2 seconds to find a box and throw a
Yeah.
book in it, because they've got a stack of things they have to put back.
No, Bud would have.
Bud's gonna have it,
But yeah,
And they'll be well packed.
yeah. Yes, they'll be well packed.
we have, we do it by hand, actually. So I thought I'd share a few covers with you. This is, now this is a story that wasn't on that list initially. This is one that we picked up in our review. But this was a story that came out about the same time as Home to Stay. But I guess either Ray didn't pick up on it or it wasn't close enough to his story. But it's a story called He Walked Among Us.
There were a few that were pretty close that he or his friends missed that predated
Right.
Home
Well,
to
this-
Stay, and they're all going to be in there.
He Walked Among Us, which is one of the stories which this cover illustrates, is kind of a tangent from Bradbury's story. It's called The Man. It's in the Illustrated Man. That's a coincidence, but it's not really an adaptation. But it's a tangent off. There's like one character in the story. You go, oh, well, maybe this is that character's story. Anyway, we include this here. And this is there's another. There weren't that many Bradbury covers, but this is one John Craig did from his story, The Screaming Woman.
America's top horror writer.
That's right.
This is publicity.
And if you look at the science fiction books, he's America's top science fiction writer. And if you look at the crime book,
You wonder the effect of this on Bradbury's career. This introduced a host of comic readers to him.
well, it went so far, but then he got the Moby Dick assignment to write the screen adaptation for John Huston for the Moby Dick movie he was making. And at that point, he was a little bit afraid that being in the low-class comic books might hurt his career or have people mock him like those kids did when he was 9
Yeah,
years old.
initially, I think it was great for Bradbury and EC, and as when he got to this level, he asked that they take his name off the covers.
Well,
But
now
they
that
continued
you're
to
on-
He
adapt.
didn't stop the adaptations, he
Right,
just
they
said, don't put
continued.
my name on the cover. So, and here's an example of that, The Sound of Thunder, his name's not on the cover. Which is kind of sad.
Why didn't he want his name on the cover?
Because comic books were low class, and he was building a name in Hollywood, and in the Slick magazine.
Yeah.
There's actually a letter from Ray to Bill Gaines saying that he was really annoyed and angered and hurt by this, but that his agent had really gotten to him and said that there's people saying, well, this is the guy that writes for comic books.
What
And
was
in 1953, 54,
Guess what was in all the publications, and Dr. Weathering was starting to come out, and
Right?
Bill Shelley in the book I'm reading right now says that was 100% what it was.
Yeah.
Was all about Dr. Weathering and what he was saying.
But I just think it's a real shame that here it is, The Sound of Thunder, which is one of his most famous stories. His name is not on the
and
cover.
beautiful.
Now, it's on the inside, it says on the inside of splash page, but
Oh,
you know, not on the cover. And then a few years later, Valentine put out a couple of reprints of the EC adaptation. There were two, and Frank Frazetta did these covers.
Summit Thunder, is that where the butterfly gets stepped on?
That's right.
That's the butterfly effect.
And this was the other. Great covers. This is something Marie Severn does. This is a production piece where she would get a black and white version of what Wally Wood drew, and then she would go through and color it and mark it for color so that the color separations could be made. So we'll take a closer look at Zach on panel there. And you can see he's using some zip tone down at the bottom, so it says no color. They want that to be gray. And then she's marking up particular, those markings indicate particular shades of particular colors. This is the one we were just talking about in the video. This is Weird Fantasy number, what is it, 20? 20. Weird Fantasy number 20. And this is the painting that's hanging on Grant's wall. So there's a better look.
Might be a little better.
Yeah.
Beautiful painting.
This is a page from There Will Come Soft Rains. And this is Wood kind of going crazy like you like to do. And you'll notice, now what's happening here is, I might give away the story, the house catches on fire. And up there in the second panel, you can see there's some famous painters.
Wood really was the perfect guy to do that.
Yeah. So let's strip away the color and take a closer look. And especially in Wood's interpretation of the Picasso painting. So that's one of the paintings that gets burned up. So that's our book. That's what we're putting together for you. You should have it out.
What's the page?
So let's open up to any questions. Anybody would like to say? What's that?
What's the total pages? What's the page count?
I just keep changing it. It's like right now it's at about 280 pages. So it's a lot. Yeah.
How's the museum going?
The museum?
The Ray
Oh, the
Bradbury?
Bradbury Museum?
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you because I don't know. I've been in touch with them, but it's like off and on. I'll get an answer and then I won't hear anything from them, and then I'll have to write it again and they'll answer it. So I don't really know. No.
Different deal?
That, yeah.
And the mailing list, you get.
Oh, I'm thinking of, you said the museum, but I'm thinking of the Bradbury Studies in Illinois. Yeah. But Orty is the guy.
Yeah.
Years ago. Yeah. But he's in touch with me. Other questions?
Obviously, Bradbury wasn't the only one they got ideas from. Were there any other authors that ever approached them and said, well, what's the deal?
There were certainly adaptations of other authors' work, and they were, to the best of my knowledge, all unauthorized.
They were all unauthorized, and as far as I know, no one else wrote to them and called them out for it. A lot of what they were adapting was from pulps from the 20s and 30s, and Bill Gaines had collections, short story collections. There's no other case that I'm aware of where anyone was able to identify the source, and some of them were pretty obvious.
I would say to that, I think Garner Fox got his name on one of his stories, the one about the Martian teacher. I may be misremembering.
That was Otto Binder.
That was
Binder, you're correct.
And yes, he did.
He got his name on
Binders
that.
were, but that was a slightly different situation,
Right.
so he came to them for work,
Yeah,
and then they did some adaptations after they had built a relationship.
Right.
So it wasn't like he had called them out for an unauthorized
Right.
adaptation.
right.
But you're absolutely right,
Right.
Binder was credited as well.
And also, Harlan Ellison pitched a story to them that they paid for and adapted but never credited. The one where the planet vomits up the astronauts.
Right, upheaval.
Yeah. And Harlow was so proud, he said he sold that story 3 or 4 times.
Yep.
It was actually printed several times before EC used it
Yeah.
as a short story.
Introductory material, I understand that several writers have written something of it.
Who told you that?
Greg Bear.
Greg Bear is writing the introduction. Tommy Burns is writing the introduction. Bill Mason is writing the introduction. And Ted White is writing the introduction. So we've got, I mean, I shouldn't call them all introductions, but all of these guys. And Ted White, of course, is a first generation fan. He was off the stand when he was 13 years old.
Pretty good company.
Yeah. So I'm really, really happy we got that.
Bear's cousin was an EC collector.
Yeah. Yeah, and oh, of course,
I bought his collection.
oh, did you? Yeah, he's really big on the bedroom.
So is it gonna be in color or black and white?
The stories are gonna be in black and white, but there is color in it, like the painting that you just saw, that'll be in color. There's some other stuff too, that'll be in color.
How many pages of the book are in color versus black and white?
Well, I don't know, we've got 240 some pages of stories, that's black and white. And then the rest of it is, well, we're using color where it's appropriate. But we're also going to be reproducing a story in, like we do in our artist edition, where we take the black and white artwork and shoot it and run it in color, although it looks like it's black and white, so you can see all of the details of how the artist put together, if you white out, or if there are cuts and things like that. So it's
Blue
like
lights
looking,
and rotation.
yeah. So it's like looking at the original art. It's not the original art side, but it's large.
Just want to say thanks for coming. Hopefully, this is going to satisfy a lot of, having admin the EC Fan Addict Club for 9 years now. Not a month goes by that someone doesn't say, when will there be a collection of the Ray Bradbury stories? And clearly, as memorable as the EC canon is, those Bradbury stories were something truly special. And there's never been a collection, apart from those paperbacks in the 60s.
Which were
And
sideways.
they were,
that way.
yeah, they were like, if you've ever read an old Mad paperback, the stories were sideways. You had to read it like this. And there were 2 panels on each page. And a lot of people discovered EC through those paperbacks, but to this day, nobody has collected all the stories in one volume. So I think having a coffee table book of these stories is really the right way to go, and it's been a long time coming.
You said it was a hardcover. Are you going to do like a trade paperback edition, you know, a big paper?
No plans on that. No plans on that. We don't do very many paperbacks.
You know how much you will charge for it?
Yeah, I do. It's $75. Which is, I think, a fine price for a package like that.
There was a collection of like 7 volumes that the comic part, and like certain artists signed it, Bill Stout, huh? Do you know which set that is?
He was just talking about
Ray Bradbury Chronicles.
Chronicles. Yeah,
They're-
were some of
they're
those,
small,
yeah.
but they're good.
Weren't a couple of those stories illustrated in those books by Wally Wood from?
But yeah, they
EC?
probably reprinted some.
A couple of, there wasn't more than one per, like at the back of the book there was one, right?
And there's a hardcover collection of
Those were
Choke
the
Gas.
EC ones.
And
But there were other things that Ray Bradbury did that
It
other
was all different.
illustrators for that book did a story for it.
Yeah, I don't think they were all EC, there was a couple EC.
Yeah.
Well, there have been other adaptations of Bradbury stories,
Yeah.
but this is the EC
The
collection.
EC,
because that's what-
like Bill Stout did the Sound of Thunder
Yeah.
in those books.
Yeah, no, this one's all EC.
Always.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming. Pleasure to present.
Today when I did something, and they all of us.
I know.